All right, welcome back, everybody. We are excited because we have Dr. Crutchfield with us right now from Crutchfield Dermatology, and we asked him to be on today because of all of, Botox has been in the news, and this is something very dear to Lori and my heart, and we were worried. We want to know if we should be worried about it or not. So, Dr. Crutchfield, do we need to be worried about Botox right now?
The bottom line is really no.
Well, that's good news. That's good news.
And I also want to thank you for having me on and having the opportunity to kind of talk about this, because I know a lot of people have questions. Our office has gotten lots of phone calls. I've gotten lots of emails to kind of talk about what's going on in the news concerning Botox and treatments.
So why did it make the news? What was happening?
What had happened, there's a consumer watchdog group, and they looked at the cases of Botox over the last probably between 1997 and 2006. So it was about 9 years. And they found that there were 16 deaths in patients who had taken Botox, but the exact cause and effect relationship had not been established.
Okay.
But I've actually taken and looked at all the cases, and of those, only 12 involved Botox, and the vast majority of the cases were kids under the age of 12 that had cerebral palsy, that have really spastic and tight muscles, that had been injected with Botox to relax their muscles. And in a few cases, they had been given too much. But since 2002, when Botox was approved for the treatment of wrinkles, there have been over 15 million treatments in the United States alone, and there have been 0 fatalities.
All right, now that's good news.
That is the classic example of how part of a story gets told,
That's right.
and it just spreads like wildfire, and people start imagining things.
Yes. There was only one case of the 12. There was a patient who had received Botox for wrinkles, but they died almost 2 months later from pneumonia.
Okay.
And so, once again, patients die of pneumonia every day, let alone
Right.
several months after they had a Botox treatment. So there was never a cause established. But that was the only patient for wrinkles that was even closely related. So.
Okay. You're talking about using wrinkles to relax the muscles in patients who have cerebral palsy.
Yes.
I thought it was supposed to freeze up the muscles. I mean, that just sounds so counterintuitive.
Well, a lot of times when you say relax, it means that you inhibit the ability for the muscle to contract.
Okay.
So
no shaking.
Yes, exactly. Or a lot of times, one of the first indications that I saw when I was a medical student, there's a thing called cervical dystonia, or where your neck. There's 2 really long muscles on the sides of your neck called the sternocleidomastoid. But people that have really pretty necks, they say the swan necks, you can see kind of the muscles on the side. But what happens is one of the muscles will contract and not the other, and so your neck is kind of twisted. And you might have seen some people walking around there kind of twisted. And so what they did was they injected Botox to relax the muscle that was contracting, and then they didn't have a twisted neck, and they could walk around straight.
Oh, my.
And that's one of the indications medically that we use it for all the time. In fact, that was approved in 2000.
You should just know that Julia and I have just been stretching our necks, trying to figure out if we're swan-like.
Okay, so where all is Botox being used these days? From a cosmetic standpoint.
Well, it's been used all around the world. Like I said, there are 15 million cases in the United States.
I'm talking on the face.
On the face. Okay. Well, that's actually another really interesting thing, because people say, well, I'm not going to use that medicine because it's not FDA approved for that. Well, Botox, as far as wrinkles, it's FDA approved for the treatment of. Have you ever had where your eyes twitch?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's called blepharospasm. In fact, that's how Botox was invented for wrinkles. It's the craziest story, but I had lunch with this doctor up in Canada. She was an ophthalmologist, and one of her nursing staff had her eyes twitching. And if it's ever happened to you, it's really irritating.
Oh, it's terrible.
And it looks like the world is having an earthquake, but most people, if they look at you, can't really tell it. My uncle had hiccups after a surgery, which is a common side effect of anesthesia. It was real cute and funny for about an hour, but he had it for 2 weeks, and it was killing him.
Oh.
So this woman had blepharospasm. Her eye was twitching. It went on for a week, and she said, is there anything we can do? And she said, well, there's this medicine, Botox, that will relax your muscle and keep it from twitching. So she injected her twitching eye with this medicine, and her twitching went away. But they noticed a week later, so did all the wrinkles around that eye.
You're kidding me. Is that how it was discovered?
And wait, it's even crazier than that. Because the woman who was an ophthalmologist, she was married to a dermatologist. And she said that night at dinner, she said, honey, there's something you should know. And that's how Botox took off for wrinkles.
Wow. I didn't know that
It's also used to inject muscles in eyes. If you've looked at some people, there's a thing called strabismus where the eyes are not perfectly aligned, where one eye is a little bit off.
Yeah.
So you can use it for that. It's FDA approved for that. It's approved for the treatment of the neck that we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
It's also approved for the treatment of wrinkles on the face, but the only place that it's really approved for is the line between the eyebrows. It's not really, it's not FDA approved yet for the treatment of wrinkles on the forehead or on the sides of the eyes, but everybody uses it for that.
I was just going to say.
Yeah.
But that's an interesting thing because a lot of people say, I don't want to use it FDA approved for that. Well, we use it for that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And last but not least, there's another really neat indication, and you guys know because you're jet setters and you're always flying out to different premieres and things and events, but for hyperhidrosis, axillary, which means sweating under the arms. And so a lot of the stars who are walking the red carpet would have their arms injected, so because you don't want to wave at people and have perspiration.
How long does that last for, that one? I'm just curious.
You know what? In my experience, and we've done hundreds of cases.
It would be a waste of it for me. I mean, I'd want it all on my face, but if you do it under your arms.
Yes. It lasts about 3 to 4 months. And the nice thing about that is if you try other methods and it doesn't work, it's one of the few indications insurance is actually paying for Botox now to treat excess sweating under the arms.
Where does the sweat go?
It doesn't go anywhere. You just don't accumulate it in the eccrine ducts or the sweat glands in the arms, so you don't produce as much of it there.
Oh, so you don't.
You sweat other places too, on the head and scalp, and when you breathe, you transpire water.
Okay.
Who knew that?
I didn't.
We're making our own humidity.
And that was the last thing the United States that got approved for. That was in 2004. And so those are the things that it's FDA approved for. But on the face, we typically use it for the smile lines around the eyes, for the frown lines between the eyebrows, and on the forehead. Sometimes I'll use it too, really small doses around the mouth to take care of the wrinkles. Some people say, I hate it when I put on my lipstick, it runs into the little wrinkles around my mouth. And they say, and people tease me and say it's a smoker's mouth, but I've never smoked.
Right.
So there's a muscle that goes around your mouth that over time constricts just a little bit, and you can relax it with just a drop of Botox, and it helps those lines too.
What does?
What about that line? What about that thing that starts to happen, I think, as you age? Is sometimes the corners of your mouth seem to sort of start to drop down. They turn down rather than...
That's right. And you know what happens is sometimes it's very, very subtle, and it's difficult to put your finger on it, but it almost looks like just a little mini frown.
Yes.
And so it almost looks like people are a little bit unhappy, and by correcting that, it all takes that unhappiness away and makes them look a little bit happier. So it's a huge effect, even though it's very, very subtle. What's happening there is over time, your face loses volume, and usually the lower third of the face. And you can use a filling agent like hyaluronic acid, Restylane, Juvederm, things like that, to fill it in. It really makes a dramatic effect, and it works well.
Okay, now wait a minute. So if you have smoker's lips, let's just say hypothetically you've got a ton of wrinkles around your mouth.
Sure.
Whether, however they got
they got there.
Too much kissing, whatever.
Right. You could put Botox above the lip, and you could still smile and talk and all that, but it would relax out that muscle area?
If it's... Yeah, the answer is yes and no.
I mean, it would smoothen out the lines?
Yes. If it's very, very mild, I use just a little bit of Botox. If it's more moderate to severe, if it's been there for a long time, I use a combination of Botox and Restylane to fill it in. But you're absolutely right. You have to be very, very careful because the muscles around your mouth, if you relax it too much, then you talk funny.
Right. Hello.
Or you have trouble whistling or sucking through a straw. So it's a very...
Darn, I can't whistle for 5 months.
You'd have to go right back to slurping your drink.
You have to slurp. So, yes, I use it, but you have to use it very carefully.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, it was so nice to hear from you, and thanks for calling in. And everyone knows this is Dr. Crutchfield from Crutchfield Dermatology, who we work with. Thanks for your time today.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Okay, talk to you soon.
Hey, there's one other thing, too. Can I say this real quick? For the people that are really worried about Botox, there's a website called Safe Botox, one word, safebotox.com, that talks about questions to ask if you're doing a consultation with any physician, and I think that's important, too.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
All right, goodbye.
Okay, see ya.
All right, we're going to take a break, and we'll be right back.
FM 107.1, living life out loud.